I walked away after 25 years, more than 25 years, and
Mhm.
landed a better job. Yes, it is possible. I know many of us who have worked at jobs for more than 10 years or so, it is very hard to leave that job, particularly if you've been there over 20 years. So today we're going to talk about the possibility of leaving a job after more than 20 years and pivoting to a better job. It is really possible. I know you probably like, no, I can't believe it. And I really want to have this conversation because what I've noticed is that Black women, once we get to a certain age, we really feel like we need to stay in a work environment, even if the work environment is harming us, we've outgrown it. Many times we say we got to stay because we feel that there's no options for us. We know that racism and sexism is in all these environments, but then we have to think about ageism too. So then
Mhm.
that often keeps us environments. So I want us to talk about ways that we are able to pivot. That is one of the topics we'll be talking about during the second annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women. That's one of the bonus sessions. So make sure you get your tickets. You can come to that. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist of over 20 years. I'm also a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm also the co-founder with Marissa Price of the second annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women coming up May 16th. So I'm so excited to have Ruth here with us today. So Ruth, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello and good afternoon, Dr. Kamani, and to the folks that are on this live stream. Dr. Kamani, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to come speak today. Again, my name is Ruth Crocker, and I am looking forward to having this conversation with all of you. Like Dr. Kamani said, I was with my former employer for over 25 years.
Wow.
But today's conversation is really going to be about passion and preparation and purpose and possibility.
Yes,
So it is possible
it is
to
possible.
move forward, and I am looking forward to having this conversation with you all, and just reminding everyone it's never too late. It's
It's
never
never
too
too
late. So I
late.
am looking forward to this conversation.
Yes. So thank you, Ruth, for accepting my invitation. I actually met Ruth when I was presenting part of a panel for a Black women insurance conference, right?
Hmm.
Yes,
Yes.
in Los
Hmm.
Angeles. So thank
Hmm.
you again for accepting the invitation. So Ruth, let's talk about what was your experience at that job? So when we think about being at a job, there's generally like a progression of events contributing to why we're having the thoughts of leaving. So
Hmm.
kind of lay out the groundwork for us. Like, what was it like at the beginning? And then how did it start impacting you in a way? And you were like, I think I need to get out of here.
Great question. So again, after being with my former employer for over 25 years, I just want to say it wasn't all bad, right? So I was there for 25 years, had a great experience. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that. But as I started progressing in my job, and I had three different roles with my former company.
Okay.
So when I felt like it was time for me to move forward with other things, when things started happening, I'm like, you know what, let's see what else is possible within the company, right?
Mhm.
Instead of making the decision to leave the company, I made a decision to move to different areas within the company.
Okay.
And so when you think about that, so that took over a course over 25 years. But I want to say probably the last 2.5 to 3 years,
Mhm.
some things weren't sitting right with me. But I
Hmm.
will tell you, my preparation started long before I left.
Hmm.
I started. I built. Over the years, I was continuously educating myself, finding what I was truly passionate in, and
Hmm.
as I progressed towards the end of my journey, my 25-year journey, I realized that it just wasn't going to happen there at my former
Hmm.
employer. So again, preparation is key.
Yes. So Ruth, let's go back because I think a lot of Black women can relate to that. I can absolutely
Mhm.
relate to that. That my job did not start off toxic. It was a
Mhm.
really great job for a number of years. It was a great
Mhm.
job. And then a series of events happened and it just got progressively worse. And I
Mhm.
also heard you say you were really trying to figure out, okay, so maybe certain things are not working in this area, maybe I'll transfer to somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us what were some of the things that were happening that initially you said, okay, let me try to pivot to another part of the organization? What were some of the things that were happening?
So some of the things that I was experiencing, people being promoted over me, people that
Mhm,
I was training, that I had trained, that were promoted over me, and not really understanding why. Right. So I would go and ask the question. I was very open about wanting to be able to advance, right, climb that
mhm,
career ladder.
mhm,
So, and I didn't really understand why the promotions weren't coming my way. So I
mhm,
said, okay, so what is it? Is it something that I'm not doing, something that I need to do more of? And I wasn't getting clear guidance.
mm,
So what I said, okay, I'm doing everything that I think that I should be doing,
mhm,
but I'm still not able to progress. And
uh-huh,
then so what I was finding is
mhm,
my team was advancing because I was helping to prepare them to advance,
right.
but I wasn't advancing.
It's
So
not
I said,
something you're preparing them, but then you're
yeah,
stuck. You're not
right,
moving
but I was
forward.
stuck. I was stuck. Yes, yes. So
Okay.
I said,
So then you, yeah,
okay.
you're like, okay, exit stage right. So I'll
Yeah,
try a
I'm
different area
pivot.
of the organization. I'm a pivot. I'll go to a different
Right,
area of the organization. So
right.
what ended up happening when you pivoted to the other part of the organization?
So when I went to the other part of the organization, absolutely loved it. Right. So it
Okay.
was it was a time for it was a position where I had so much room to grow. So what I would say, the first position, I outgrew that position.
Okay.
And so the second position, I had absolute room to grow, had a phenomenal manager. He was
Okay.
awesome. And
Okay.
he helped me to grow and to using his words, you can do my job with your eyes closed now. I mean, it took years. I was in that role for almost 11 years.
Wow.
So when but things started happening. You have a change in management, a shift in management, and my particular manager who I was working for, who
Mhm,
managed me,
mhm.
um, using his words, it was a toxic situation. He left, he retired,
Oh, wow.
and because of that, and then here I am, kind of left alone on the ship by myself is how I
Oh,
looked at it.
yeah.
And so that's when I made my next move.
Uh-huh. Let's
Yeah.
pause there for a second. So
Sure.
I think a lot of us can relate to that, again, myself included, that
Mhm.
sometimes we're in systems and we can see the toxicity around us, but if we have a good leader, boss, manager, they can
Right.
sometimes buffer us from the toxicity in some ways. But when that
Mhm.
person leaves, it becomes a whole different story.
Correct. Correct.
Yes.
And in my situation, the department that I was in was just a phenomenal place to be. Great
Okay.
leadership, all around, from
Okay.
top all the way down. Well, those leaders started leaving, whether it was retiring or what have you, and then you started seeing a collapse in leadership, right? And
Ah,
so, and that's what was happening.
okay.
And so then when my manager left, it just kind of and not only did my manager leave, but several people left on
Mhm.
my team, and
Okay.
it really left me in a situation where I was handling a lot of the responsibility of the people that had left, right?
Mhm. Okay.
So it was like
Ooh.
responsibility on top of responsibility.
Okay, so
And
increased workload. So your
yes,
work, but then other people's job.
yes,
Okay,
exactly,
okay,
exactly,
okay.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
then that contributed to you pivoting to a different part of the organization then?
Yes. So
Okay,
then, I pivoted to my third role that I had within
okay.
the organization, and I did that role for about 4.5 years before I finally decided to leave and resign from the company.
What was going on in that last role that contributed to you eventually saying, I need to get out of here?
Yeah, so that that was interesting. So we had, again, a lot of new leaders that came into the organization, and really just there was people on my team that it just was not a comfortable situation to be in, right? And so, and I finally got to the point where I just said to myself, um, I have to look at what's best for me. And I'll tell you a little bit about how all that came about, because when I think about going back to, your purpose and your passion and your preparation and possibility, when I was thinking about how I was feeling, and I'll just talk about one morning, I couldn't get out of bed. I literally could not get out of bed.
Ooh.
And I was just thinking about it. And when you go back and I'm talking about preparation, I had
Mhm.
already built around me trusted advisors, people
Mm.
that I was talking to and having conversations with, private conversations with. And I will tell you about this particular time when I really literally could not get out of bed. And I'm a
Wow.
registered nurse, right? So I always would say to my patients, you have to listen to your body, right?
True.
Got to
True.
listen to your body. And so now I'm talking to myself and I'm
Uh,
saying, Ruth, you got to listen to your body.
oh.
So I called my doctor, my trusted doctor that I had had over 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
and talking to him on the phone. And he calls me Ruthie. He says, Ruthie, I need you in my office tomorrow.
Wow.
And
Real
so I
talk.
went, no, real talk. And I went to his office the next day. He looked at me. Again, this is a trusted doctor that I've had over 25 years. He
Mm-hmm.
looked at me and he says, I've never seen you like this before.
Ooh. What was going
And
on? Like, what were the symptoms you were having?
it was, I just didn't feel like myself. And, we all know what that, when you say, oh, I just don't feel like myself.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like doing anything. I didn't feel like getting
Mm-hmm.
out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like and I was gaining weight. I was gaining a lot of weight. And I just didn't feel like myself. And we know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try to block it out, right? Oh, we just have a lot going on. So
Mhm.
but I realized that this is not me. I'm snapping at people, I'm snapping at my family. And I'm like,
So
and
to
my
spill
kids,
over.
yeah, and my kids are saying to me, they're like, Mom, what's wrong with you? Right.
Mm.
And so I just said, you know what? Let me just go talk to my doctor. He ran some tests and did all of that. And then he said, I'm going to help you get back to you. He said, because this is not you. And
Ah.
that's when I realized, after having a conversation with him, that's when I realized I've got to make some changes for
Okay.
me.
So I want to follow up on a few things you said.
Sure.
One was it was like an accumulation of things. And I think as Black women, we often just keep going, keep going, keep going. Like we ignore like the small signs that something's off. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I got this, not a big deal. So it got to a point where your body was like, done. I'm
Done.
just checked out. So
Hmm.
then you go to the doctor has a real talk conversation with you, telling you that, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. So we're looking at a change in your baseline functioning. And
Hmm.
then what you said too is that your family started noticing things too. So they
Right.
noticed, wait a minute, this is not how you normally are. So you start
Right.
becoming like a different person.
Hmm.
So the doctor said, I want to help you get back to you. So what
Hmm.
did the doctor recommend at that point?
So at that point, he recommended that I needed to take some time off from work. Because keeping in mind, we don't know what's going on physically. We don't know if this is a physical issue. We don't know if this is a mental issue. We don't know if this is a combination of both. We don't know. And
Yes.
so, but he knew me, right? And
Uh-huh.
that's the beauty in having a relationship with your doctor, whether it's your
True.
medical doctor, whether it's your mental practitioner or what have you. They
Mhm.
know you, right?
Yeah.
And so he knew me, and he was like, "This is not you."
Ah,
So that's when he said, "Okay, you need to take some time off of work. We're
okay.
going to do a full, just he ran so many tests on me, Dr. Kamani. I was just like, okay, am I okay?
I'm
um,
going on everything.
yes, yes. And so he did that. He ran just a battery of tests, and
Mhm.
then and he told me at the end of that, he says, Ruth, you need to look for something else to do.
Wow.
And of course, I'm thinking, no, I've been with my job 25 years. I've been doing this over 25 years. What do you mean? I said, and especially when you have built relationships over those years, and the
Mhm.
thought about starting over was
Mhm.
very scary for me.
Okay.
Because I had a great reputation with my company.
Mhm.
I knew a lot of people
Mhm.
within the company and had built relationships over the years, and the thought of starting over was
Ah,
just a little scary for me.
very scary, right? So the thought of
Yeah.
starting over, and you made mention of fear. So what was
Yes.
the other? Were there other fears that you had about leaving that job?
Well, yes, absolutely. Other fears were, people talking, right? So why is she leaving? What is this all about? Is it
Okay.
about performance? Because usually after you've been with a company for over 25 years and you leave, people start asking questions, and is
Mm.
it something that she's not doing within her job or what? And
Mhm.
so even though I knew,
Right.
I never had a performance review that was not just impeccable.
Right.
Always. Even my performance review that I had before I left, it
Uh-huh.
was great.
Right.
But again, the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, what are people going to think? And should I do
Uh,
that? And more importantly, will I be able to find another role, another position within another company
mhm.
um, that's going to work for me? And
Mhm.
also interviewing again. I hadn't interviewed in over
Oh,
25
you
years,
had to go through
right?
that whole thing again. Like, who likes
Going
a corporate job?
Right.
Nobody.
And
Right.
why is this person leaving their company after 25 years? Do we really want to hire this person?
Oh, so
Yes.
anticipatory anxiety.
Yes.
You have one to
Yes.
ask me that question.
Yes. Yes. So
Okay.
those were my fears. I
Okay.
mean, and really, does it make sense to start all over again? I feel like I was starting all over again. And I feel
Uh-huh.
like I had invested some 25 years of my life into this company.
Right.
Does it make
Right.
sense for me to do this?
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have any financial fears as well, Ruth?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
because that's the
Yes.
biggie. That's the biggie I hear from Black
Yes.
women. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So, huge financial fears because even though I'm blessed to have a wonderful husband, we
Mhm.
live. We live. Our household is based on two paychecks, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, if I make a decision to leave and I can't, and just think about if I wasn't able to get the same salary or more than what I have now, what
Uh-huh.
would that mean? When you think about your 401k, what does that mean? What's going to
Uh-huh.
happen with that? And even though we have three amazing adult children, they
Mhm.
still going to always be your children. So I feel like I'm
Right.
still trying to help and support them also.
Yes.
And then, we have aging parents. So thinking
Mm.
about
Ooh, a
that,
lot of responsibilities.
yeah, we got a lot
Oh,
going on. We have a lot going on.
yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So
Yes.
how did
Yes.
you walk through well, let's talk about like how did you walk through the fears? So you outlined a number of fears that I see women in the chat like me too. Those are my
Hmm.
fears too. So how did you walk through those fears and decide I'm still gonna leave? Even though I have these fears, I'm still gonna leave.
Yes. And great question. So thank you for that. And I will say, walking away, what I came to what when I think about that question and how I was able to move forward, I just say walking away from something that I built for 25 years, I had to remind myself I wasn't abandoning my past.
Mm,
So I was just really honoring everything that it taught me. And I had
okay.
to come to that realization that, and I was thinking about this, fear, when you think about the fear factor, I said, you know what? Fear had a voice. It certainly had a voice because it was going, several things going through my head, but I
Mm.
wasn't going to let it have a vote though.
Ooh, what
Yeah.
did you say? Repeat that, Ruth. What?
I said
I
fear
love
had a
that.
voice
Fear had a
because I
voice.
did. It had a voice, but it wasn't going to get a vote.
Girl, I gotta write that down. That's priceless. That's like a
Yes.
quotable moment. Fear had a voice.
Hmm.
But can you elaborate on that, please?
Well, kind of like we were just talking about, I had all these different fears going through my mind, and how it was going to impact my family, because I couldn't just think about me. I had
Right.
to think about my family also, but I wasn't going to let fear take over. So that's what I mean by fear doesn't have a vote. I wasn't going to let it take over,
Okay.
because in my mind, I know and I knew that I had been preparing myself for years for
Mm.
this next opportunity. And
Okay.
this is something that I share with my children all the time.
Mm.
You are interviewing for your next role or opportunity every single day, every
Uh-huh.
single day.
So always be ready,
So
basically.
always be ready.
Okay.
What's that saying? If you
Stay ready, something
stay
be
ready, you don't have to
ready.
get ready.
Right, exactly. That part, that part,
There
that part.
you go. There
Right.
you go.
So you were like, okay, I acknowledge I have the fear, yet
Hmm.
I'm still going to move forward. So a lot of Black women feel the fear, particularly about finances. How am I going to pay my bills? What's going to
Hmm.
happen? And they stay stuck in that. But
Right.
for you, you're like, okay, I feel the fear, but I'm still moving forward because I've been planning for this for a long
Hmm.
time.
For a long
I
time.
love that you said that. I was on
Yes.
earlier on our Black Utopia, and we were talking about the importance of planning. So it's Black
Hmm.
people and it's Black women that, particularly during this
Hmm.
time, and any time that I would say, it's so important for us to plan because you never know what can happen. Always be ready because you never know when you're not going to need that, right? So can you
Exactly.
share with us, how did you pivot? So how did you go from that job to another job? How did you do that?
So again, it was preparation. So over the years, I was participating in, I was on volunteering on boards.
Okay.
I was intentionally surrounding myself, like I said earlier, with trusted advisors who I could talk to,
Mhm.
and I was investing in myself.
Mhm.
So years ago with my former company, they
Mhm.
would pay for employees to go to different conferences, and companies change over the years, and it got to the point where they weren't necessarily paying for people to go to conferences, but some of these conferences I wanted to attend,
Mhm.
I felt it was going to be good and beneficial for me, invested because I'm investing in me.
Right.
So I started just paying for myself to go to these conferences, because
Mm.
again, I'm being very intentional about surrounding myself with people that I know are doing, I'm looking at some of these people, I'm like, oh, I want to do something like that, or I want to work in this area. So I
Mhm.
started surrounding myself with those people. I started attending the conferences where those people were going to conferences.
Mhm.
I volunteered for boards that I was sitting on. It was a lot of work. I will tell you
Mhm.
that it
Mhm.
was a lot of work, but not knowing that I was preparing myself for the next opportunity.
Right.
I wasn't doing that years ago just to say, oh, I'm going to do this so I can look for my next job. It
Mhm.
wasn't that. It was that
Right.
I was doing things, working in areas and volunteering in areas that I had a passion for. So that's where that passion
Mm.
comes in, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have an extreme passion for DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and
Mhm.
belonging.
Mhm.
And so I started preparing myself and surrounding myself with people that had that same passion.
Uh-huh.
And so when I made the pivot, and I don't know if we can maybe talk about that now, on how I
Yeah.
was able to pivot to this next role.
Yes.
I met someone a few years ago.
Mhm.
And she's now a very good friend of mine. She was my
Mhm.
colleague, but now she's a very good friend of mine.
Mhm.
And an opportunity came across her desk, and a job description, and she was reading it. And she's like, "Wow, I think Ruth would be perfect for this."
Hmm.
And she sent it to me. She calls me sis. She's like, "Sis, I think you would be perfect for this. What do you think?" And I'm looking at it, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this was written just for me." And the rest is history. I applied for the role, and went through a vigorous interviewing process. I think I interviewed with 5 people, I believe. I think it was 5 or 6 people. But again, that preparation before that I've done all those years before prepared me for the opportunity that I'm in today.
Interesting. So a few things I want to follow up on that. One, this was a colleague of yours. So was it a colleague at the former job?
So she used to work at the former job,
Okay.
but she had left probably mm, 7 or 8 years ago. So
Ah,
we stayed in contact. But
got
my
it.
first opportunity to meet her was at my former job, and
Uh-huh.
then when she left, we kept in contact.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm,
So I mentioned to Black women all the time about use discretion about people that you meet in the workplace. I'm not saying that you can't be friends with people in the workplace because I have some really good friends that I met through the former job, but use
mhm,
some discretion. That's what I mentioned. The other thing is when you build really good relationships with people, they will look out for you.
mhm.
So you could be doing something else and they will seek you out and say, girl, you know about this opportunity? And that's
Yes,
exactly what happened. So when she told you about this opportunity, were you still at the former job?
I was. I was.
Huh,
I
okay.
was still at the former job, and I was going through all of um, my testing with my doctor, if you will. So it was during that period of time that she reached out to me, and
Okay.
and not knowing what's going on with me, not
The
knowing what's
timing
going.
is divine.
Yes, yes, it's called divine intervention, right?
Yes.
And she just reached out to me, and I reached out to her and just said, she says, I'm the opportunity's here. I'm just letting you know because it was shared with me, and then, like I said, the rest is history after that.
Amazing. So
Hmm.
how did you let go of the other fears you said? The fears of people thinking, why did she leave after 25 years?
Hmm.
Right? What are they going to
Right.
say about me? You had already formed good relationships with that job. And then when you found out about this new job, did they ask you about why you were going to leave the old job?
They did. They
Okay.
did. Of course they did.
Okay.
Of course. And but I don't I really don't believe that it was a surprise because of some things that happened towards the end of my tenure there. There was some things that I did not appreciate,
Okay.
and I brought that to the attention of management. There was some things going on, and so it was almost like everything was kind of aligning itself to just
To get
work
try to
out.
get out. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes,
So
yes.
you could leave with a clear conscience,
Yes, yes.
right? Like,
Absolutely,
"This is not the place
absolutely.
for me."
Yes, yes, and it was, and it was still challenging though. I don't want anyone to think that, oh, okay, this new opportunity came and she took the new opportunity and left. No, it was a lot of thought and a lot of prayer because
Mhm,
even though when I read the job description
mhm,
and I thought that this was great, for what I would love to do and the passion
mhm,
that I have with working in the area that I work in now,
mhm.
but I did not, and it wasn't gonna be a given, right? Because there was other folks interviewing
Applicant.
for this role also, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't want people to think, oh, well, she found another opportunity, she just left. No, it wasn't that. It was a lot of thought and a lot of prayer. I was on my knees because
Mhm,
I did not want, because I knew that there was some things going on with my former employer,
mhm,
but I didn't want to, I didn't ever want to look back and say I left because of this. I
mm.
wanted to be able to say that the reason why I left because it was the right time to leave.
Okay.
Not because, it was toxic and all of that. That had something to do with it also,
Mhm.
obviously. But I wanted to be able to leave on my terms.
Okay.
And I wanted to be able to say, I left with a clear conscience and a
Okay.
good record.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So the part about working through what people might say about you, how did you work through that fear?
So again, just a lot of prayer. So
Okay.
I thought about it and I said, you know what, Ruth? You have such a great reputation because you've built your reputation over the years. So
Mhm.
if someone's going to think, negatively about you leaving, that person doesn't know you. So it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's
It
not that
doesn't matter.
right, right,
It
right.
doesn't
So
matter.
so as you were going okay, so a lot of prayer, a lot of thought about what was happening, and so you applied for this new job, and as you applied for the new job, they did ask you about why you were leaving the previous job.
They did.
Okay, this is the $1,000,000 question because people always ask that. So what if people ask you why you leaving a job? So what did you tell them?
So again, I kept it. I and I share this with people all the time. You know, you always just keep it very positive.
Hmm.
And there's no sense of going into any type of interviewing process and talking about another employer, about, you know, whether it's a toxic, you know, environment or what have you, because there's always two sides to a story, right?
Hmm.
So my position was, I kept it very positive, and I
Okay.
said that I just see this as an opportunity for me to pursue my passion.
Oh,
And my passion is, you know, working with students, and
okay.
you go on my LinkedIn, you'll see what I do now.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that was my passion.
Okay.
And so I kept it very positive. And I said, you know, obviously what I said to them is, after, you know, 25 years with an employer, and
Mhm.
to be seeking an opportunity like this, I don't take that lightly,
Yeah.
because I was with, you know, with that company for over 25 years. And
Mm,
so I was really comfortable with what I was doing.
right.
Still had areas to grow and all of that, but I felt comfortable. But I also did not, again, I did not want to go in talking about a toxic work environment,
Right.
because anybody on the other end, they could say, "Oh, wow, well, if she's talking like this about her company, well, she could potentially be saying something about our own company also."
Okay.
So
Okay.
again, my recommendation is just stay positive, and own who you are. Just be yourself, be your authentic self, but you don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to go into all the
All the
negative information.
details, right.
Yeah,
So keep
right.
it neutral and focus more so on the opportunity.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And so what was the turnaround time from you interviewing to finding out you had the job, the new job?
Interesting. So let's kind of back up a little bit.
Okay.
So remember, I told you I took a leave of absence,
Right.
and then I came back from my leave of absence.
How long
And
was your leave?
it was about 3.5 months.
Oh,
About
wow.
three and a
Okay.
half months. I came back from my leave of absence in September.
Mhm.
I interviewed in October, and I was hired in November.
Oh my gosh, like back to back to back to back. Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
yes. I
Okay.
will tell you, talking about those trusted advisors that I was talking about, right? One of my trusted advisors, he said to me, he says, "Ruth," because I was telling him, I was like, "Oh, I haven't interviewed in over 25 years. I don't even know what that's like anymore." And he said, "This is what I need for you to do. I just need for you to just go out and interview. Just go out and
Okay.
interview. Just go
Okay.
interview, and not thinking that you're gonna leave the company or anything. Just go out, interview, so you can get yourself comfortable. So when you do get that interview for that role that you potentially really want, then
Right.
you'll be prepared." Okay. So that's what my trusted advisor advised me to do. And he
Okay.
said, "And I'm going to be your accountability partner.
Oh,
And
good.
I'm gonna check back with you." Now, this was probably around September,
Okay.
October. He said, "I'm gonna check back with you in January of 2025, which is this year." He said, "I'm
Okay.
gonna check back to see how you're doing." So when I reached out to him after I was hired, he said, "Wait a minute, what?
I told you to practice,
I
and you
told you to
landed your whole
practice,
job.
not leave."
Right. How you do that?
He
You on
said,
a roll.
he said, "That was your first interview?" I said, "That was my first interview." He's like,
Oh my gosh.
"Wow."
You must have nailed it. You must have nailed it.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to actually be in the interview? What was that experience like for you?
You know, I will tell again, kind of going back to what my preparation.
Uh-huh.
So the hiring manager was someone that I met at a conference the year before.
Oh my goodness.
So again, just met her in passing. She was one of our speakers. I
Uh-huh.
just went up to her, told her, you know, she did a great job. I really enjoyed what she said. And that was the extent of it. That was the only conversation I had with her. So when I interviewed with her, I felt a little bit at ease because I had already met her
Right.
the year before. But again, being completely honest and transparent, I was nervous. I
Okay.
was, because again, not having interviewed in over 25 years.
Yeah.
And so I was a little nervous, but I will tell you, she made me feel so comfortable
Oh,
because she had done, she had done her homework. So
right.
she had talked about people about me. So again, going back to, you never know when you're interviewing for your next opportunity every
Right. And that's why
single
it's so good to
day.
make connections with people. Yes.
Every single day you're interviewing for your next opportunity. You just don't know when
Yeah.
it's going to be. So
Right.
she had already talked to some people in the industry
Hmm.
about me. So when we interviewed, the interview was more comfortable.
Okay.
She made me feel more comfortable. And then, and I interviewed with several other people, but my first interview was with her. And
Okay.
then just feeling comfortable. And then she told me who I was going to be interviewing with after that.
Mhm.
And it was just a great experience. I will say that it was a great experience.
Okay. And what about references? That's another question that comes up. One, what my resume, interviewing, and then about references. So, how were references handled with the situation? So they had to follow up with your job, right?
So to be completely honest, I don't know how they did that.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't, because they didn't reveal that to me. But to be honest with you, I had nothing to hide.
Okay. So
So
you
they did.
provided references
I
extra.
did. I
Wow.
did. I did, because I knew that I had a great record with my company.
Uh-huh.
I knew that. Now again, and I say this to people all the time, you can't block my blessings, right? So
Right.
so if it's meant to be, it's gonna be.
Yes.
But I had all, like I said, was preparing myself all along,
Mhm.
and I had a great track record at my former company,
Uh-huh.
and I was proud of it. I was proud of it. So I had nothing to hide. I had nothing to
Okay.
hide. So
Okay.
I gave the references. I don't know what they did with them. If they did anything with them, I have no idea, but I
Okay.
did give them.
So that's the part that trips people up is they're like, oh my God, I don't even apply for another job because they're going to ask for references and it's going to feel awkward or strange at the other job. You're saying you went on this whole interview, you gave the information, and nothing was crazy after you when you went back to the job, right?
No, no, not at all. Not at all. Now, you have to be careful of the references that you give now. So
Ah,
let's be that
let's
let
talk
me
about
make
that.
that clear.
Let's talk about
So, I did not give my immediate manager as a reference.
that.
I didn't, because I didn't need for her to know what I was doing, right? So I didn't, but again, I had been with the company for over 25 years.
Right,
So
right.
I had, again, what I'm calling trusted advisors with the company that I knew was not, if they were to reach out to them, I knew that they would not go and say, "Oh, Ruth is out there interviewing." So
Okay.
again, be careful with who you have in your on your side or in your
Yeah,
camp.
yeah.
And if they're truly a trusted advisor, and of course, I reached out to them to let them know, because you don't
Okay.
want people to just, all of a sudden they're
Absolute.
getting a phone call or email, and you're like, okay, well, they're like, what is this all about?
Right, right.
So confidentially, I did reach out to them and just say,
Okay,
hey, would it be okay if I used you as a reference? And
okay,
this is what the reference is for. And so
okay.
I did do that.
Good.
But again, I don't know and those trusted advisors never circle back and say, oh, yes, they reached out to me. So I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. What did they say
Mhm.
when you told them you're applying for another job, these trusted advisors at the old job?
They were happy for me.
Oh, they're happy for you.
Yes, they were. They were. They said, "You know what, Ruth?" Because they knew what my passion was.
Ah,
So I was the co-chair of one of our ERGs when I was at my former company, and
okay,
I was able to really just dive into my passion, being a co-chair of one of these ERGs. Well, I
okay,
did that for 2.5 years, and then after, then there's two more co-chairs that are, so it's a 2.5 year commitment. So
okay.
then after that, I was not able to do a lot of the things
The
that I
work
was
that you really
doing.
love to do.
Right, right. And those people saw that. They were like, "Oh, Ruth, you're
Uh-huh.
so good at that. You're so good
Okay,
at it."
okay.
And so that's why they weren't surprised.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's jump to when you get the job. What was it like for you when they said we want to offer you the job? What was it like for you? Did it bring up an additional like feelings of, oh, like kind of torn between the old job and this new opportunity?
Um, I had no thoughts of, wow, I want to stay at my former employer. It was like a big, huge weight was lifted off of my
Wow.
shoulder.
Okay.
And I tell you, when they offered me the position,
Mhm.
the first thing that came to my mind was thank you, God, because
Mhm.
I felt like, because keep in mind what my doctor said earlier. He says, Ruth, you need to move forward.
Yeah.
And he says, and I'm not, he told me, he says, and I'm not going to accept anything less than that.
Oh, he was holding you accountable.
Oh, he was.
Okay. Okay.
So I felt like this huge shoulder was or the weight was lifted off my shoulder.
Uh-huh.
But I'll tell you, one of the things that really concerned me is negotiation for my salary, because I felt really good about moving forward,
Mhm.
because again, now I'm stepping into working and doing and working in a field of my passion, and
Okay.
oh, by the way, getting paid for it, right? But
Right.
I'm doing what I love to do. But
Okay.
I also, again, it's not about me. And I've
Mhm.
always, this is how I live my life. It's not about me. It's about me
Mhm.
and my family.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm thinking about, okay, so what are we going to do about, is my salary going to be the same? Is it going to be more? What is it? And again, we're going through, at the end of the year, we get bonuses, but our bonuses don't come until the following year. So am I going to be missing out? Again, I've told you for 25 years, I had an
Mhm. Mhm.
impeccable performance reviews. And
Right.
so I'm thinking, am I going to miss out on my bonus? That's, financial. Now it's the whole financial
Right.
aspect.
Right.
And so again, I just got on my knees in prayer and said, Lord, I just need you to help guide me through this. Cause again, I don't know. I haven't had to negotiate a salary in 25 years.
Wow. Wow. Were
And
you
so
able to get your
that
bonus
was
from
my
the old
concern.
job? Were you able to get your bonus from the old job?
No, I
Oh,
wasn't.
okay.
I
So you
wasn't.
stepped into this new job, and so you
Mhm.
had to negotiate. Were you happy with how you negotiated?
I was more than pleased. I was more than pleased. I'm telling you.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yes, yes. It
Okay.
worked out. Because that was my concern.
Mhm.
And thinking about my family, and I said, okay, God, you didn't bring me this far to leave me.
Okay.
And I went through the whole negotiation process, and it was more than what I could have even expected.
Isn't that something? Isn't that
Yeah.
something? Was it stressful for you to go through that process?
You know, Honestly, Dr. Kamani, no, it
Mm.
wasn't. Only because I felt so comfortable with the integrity of all of the people that I interviewed with.
Okay.
And so I knew what my bottom line was going to be.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I was very confident that I was at least going to be able to meet my bottom line.
Okay.
But when I say exceedingly more, then
Wow.
what God, I mean, God was in, he was, I'm telling you, he worked through the whole process.
Mm.
But it's that confidence. So you have to have that confidence, right?
Right.
And that confidence goes back to all your preparing. So when
True.
I was doing my preparation, even for this negotiation process,
Mhm.
you have to go through, looking at what is your worth,
Mhm. Know
and
your
when
worth.
things,
So important.
know your worth. You got to know
Yeah.
your worth. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, as women, not only just Black women, just women, period. And
Mhm.
there's all kind of data out there that we do not negotiate, and we do not make the salary that we should be making, that
Right.
men make, right?
Right.
Because men will go in and tell you, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I want this, and I want that, and we're just like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you kinda took the reins in and you
Mhm.
negotiated your salary. It was more than you could anticipate. It was
Mhm.
you're very happy about it. So
Yes.
can you talk to us about what was it like telling your employer, I'm out?
Mhm.
Particularly if you'd have been there for 25 years. So the people you had formed connections with, and yeah, tell us about that.
So that was challenging. I will tell you that was challenging. And when I gave my notice, it was completely unexpected. I say completely unexpected because that's what my manager told me. Now,
Mm,
so I'm just being completely, transparent from
right.
what was told to me. And but I knew that once I got over that, it was actually just giving the uh the resignation, and I did not want to do it in email.
Ah,
So I wanted to have a conversation with my manager because I felt like it was a conversation that was needed versus just sending an email saying, especially, I just felt like, my whole character, my whole integrity would not allow me to do that.
okay.
And I knew that my manager was in a meeting, an offsite meeting, and it was going to be a challenge, to get in contact with her. But I sent her a text and just said, I just need to have just a couple minutes of your time. Um, and she contacted me right away. And I, explained to her what was going on, and she was completely shocked.
Wow.
But then of course, it's just the human side of me. I felt bad because I knew she was in a meeting.
Mm,
But she said she was, completely shocked. And and then we set up some time to have a conversation. But then the ball just started rolling because my current employer wanted me to pretty much start right away.
ooh.
Yes,
So
yes.
there was no real time in between a rest.
There
Yeah,
wasn't.
up and running.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was up and running, and
Okay.
I was up against the clock because of some things that needed to happen with my current employer.
Got it.
So when I reached out to her, did that, and then I started reaching out to some of my closest colleagues,
Mm.
and they were like, "What?" And then when I told them what I was going to be doing, they're like, "Oh, that's so you,
Oh, good. Okay, so
perfect
you
for
were
you."
supportive.
Yeah,
So was it
very, very,
like,
very supportive.
"Oh, Ruth, don't leave us. Don't leave. You can't leave."
Now I
It
got
wasn't.
that too. I
Oh,
got
you
that
did?
too. I did. I did. I
Oh,
got that too. But
how did that impact you?
it was it I shed a few tears, to be honest with you. Because some of my colleagues at my former employer, they've been there for a long time too. And so we're a family, and we still are. I still keep in
Okay.
contact with them. So it was challenging,
Mhm.
but I always kept in mind that there's a bigger purpose here. And I kept
Ah,
saying to myself, there's a bigger purpose here. I've
right.
served my purpose here at my former employer. I've done my time here. I've
Yeah,
learned a lot here. Um, but it's time to move on.
it's time to
It's,
go. It's
it's
time
time
to
to go. It's
go.
time to
Okay.
go.
And did you experience any grief about leaving? I know that the timing was perfect, the salary was great. Any grief in relation to leaving that previous job?
No,
No, wow. Okay,
no,
okay, okay,
no. A few people ask me that. Maybe so. I've been with my current employer for 5 months.
okay.
And so maybe a couple of months in, some of my friends were asking me, "Well, do you have any grief about leaving?" And I'm like, "Absolutely none.
None. Wow.
None.
Total clear
None."
conscience.
Yeah, I even because I honestly thought after I left, I was gonna experience this, the whole grieving process, right?
Right,
I
right.
really truly thought, okay, I'm gonna go through the highs and the lows and all. Not once.
Wow,
Not
amazing.
once. Not
Okay,
once.
okay. So tell us, what has it been like for you this past 5 months since you've been in
Mhm.
this new job? What has that been like for you?
So, Dr. Kamani, let me just tell you how I tell people when they ask me how are you doing on your new job. This is what I say to them:
Okay.
I'm living my best life.
Ooh.
I am living my best life, and it's
Ooh.
something that I should have done years ago. However, I'm not looking back. I'm just saying all those years, I was preparing myself for today,
Okay.
and I am living my best life. I have a great team, a great support team, and I am truly living my best life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can you share when you said, I should have left a while back? I should have left years ago. Why do you say that?
Well, just kind of going back to some of the things that I was experiencing.
Okay.
Um, um, I was like, oh, I should have, because there were times, being completely transparent, there were times that I thought about leaving, but then, life is life, right? So again, it's not about me, it's about my family. So
Okay.
I had children that were, in college, very, I mean, just
Responsibilities, family
yeah,
responsibilities.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm like, does it make sense for me to leave now that I'm trying to support my kids? And
Mhm.
also I had two of my three children played Division I basketball.
Oh, wow.
So I was traveling around seeing them, and because of the time that I had with my former employer, because I was there for so long, I had a lot of PTO time. So I
Ah,
had that time where I could, go to their games and things of that
right.
sort. So I was thinking about things like that. If I start with a new employer, now you're going back to what I said earlier. Now you got to rebuild relationships and all of
One.
that. I didn't have to do that because I had
Right.
that with my former employer,
Right.
and so that's one of the reasons why I did not leave when all those years ago, because I was being a mom.
Yeah.
uh, and now I have my three adult children are doing phenomenal, they're doing great, and so I felt like this was a time that would be good now to do something for me.
Pivot.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
that pivot.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, in relation to, 'cause the thing about it, Ruth, is that I hear a lot of Black women who are in situations at a job, and like you said, I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't know what was going on. I just couldn't get out of bed anymore. And what I've heard from many Black women is they are having these experiences in relation to their job, the stress,
Mhm.
and they'll go to the doctor, and the doctor will say to them, just like your doctor said, you need to get out this place, you take a break or whatever. And what I've heard is a lot of Black women ignore the doctor's advice
Mhm.
for whatever reason. It could be familiar responsibilities, it could be loyalty to the job, it's a number of reasons. What
Mhm.
would you say to a Black woman who might be listening right now and her doctor is saying to her, this is not healthy for you?
Mhm.
And she chooses to ignore that medical
Mhm.
advice. What would you say to her? Especially because you're RN too. What would you say to
Mhm. What I would say is, every for that person who is questioning what the doctor's saying or what have you, not ready to take heed to that advice,
her? Uh-huh.
is that it's so important to pause and
Mm,
say, this person's not just saying this just to be saying it. They're looking out for the
yes.
best for me. So if someone is telling me, or a medical professional is telling me that I need to pause and I need to get out of a situation, listen,
Listen.
right?
Yeah.
Because life is short.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
is short, and so to be able to just stop and pause and say, okay, if this person is saying to me that I need to get out of this situation, I need to listen.
Yeah.
I need to pause. I need to think about, what are my next steps. Now,
Yes.
you may not be able to do it today,
Mhm.
but let's
Mhm.
go back to what I said before. Prepare.
Yeah.
Start preparing yourself for your exit. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Mhm.
Um, and instead of just continuously going with the flow, prepare yourself for your exit. What's your exit strategy?
Yes.
Prepare yourself for that.
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, that medical professional has your best interest at heart.
True.
And you yourself have to have your best interest at heart.
That's
So if a
smart.
medical professional is telling you this is not a good situation for you, because believe me, when my medical professional told me that, I looked at him because we had this type of relationship. I looked at him, I said, "You gonna pay my bills?"
Oh, oh,
And
oh,
he said, "Ruthie, you want to be here to pay your bills."
he came back at you. Okay.
I'm like, "Oh,
You're
excuse
not gonna
me."
be here. How about that?
I said, "Excuse me."
I need to pay
So
attention.
yeah, pardon me.
No, like I need to pay attention to what he's saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then,
Yes, yes.
and instead of me getting defensive, because I
Yeah,
did, because,
yeah,
but instead of me getting defensive, I had to pause and just
yeah.
say, he just has my best interest at heart.
Right,
He has
right.
my best interest at heart, and I need to listen.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to listen to other people outside of your family too,
true,
right?
true, true.
Um, Even, and like I said, my family saw something going on with me,
Yeah.
and then when I went to my medical doctor, he's like, "This is not you. This is
Oh,
not
yeah,
you." So he says, "I don't know what's going. We go," because he wanted to, process of elimination. We got to make sure there's nothing wrong with you medically
yeah,
and some other things. And so we went through all of that because he was concerned. He was really
yeah,
concerned.
yeah.
And then so to that person that is saying, "Oh, do I need to listen?" Absolutely, listen,
Yes, yes.
listen.
And I want to circle back to something that you were transparent about getting defensive with your doctor,
Mm-hmm,
because what I've encountered from a number of Black women when I say things like, think about when you're in a job situation that's not serving you anymore. You've either outgrown it and or it's toxic, and you recognize that, start planning your exit. Like we've been talking about planning this whole conversation, right?
mm-hmm,
Start
mm-hmm,
planning your exit. Somebody will invariably say, "What, you want me to quit this job? I got bills to pay. You want me to be homeless?" And I'm like, whoa, whoa. Like, how do we go from there to there? I'm
mm-hmm,
literally saying, plan. I never tell any Black woman just up and leave a job. I never say
mm-hmm,
that unless you're in immediate danger, physically and or psychologically, right? But what I say is, let's start thinking about what your exit plan is so you are ready to pivot if you need to. But that defensiveness, can we
right.
speak to? And even when I talk about the summit, right? So the summit is coming up, everybody. So even when I talk about the summit and I say, okay, at the summit, we're going to have a number of Black women speakers sharing with you about ways to replace your income, multiple streams of income, remote work, all these different things, right? So the fear of how to replace your income, we're providing information for you. And no one is saying to you, once you come to the summit, you got to leave tomorrow. Like
Mm-hmm,
nobody's holding you accountable to that, but
mm-hmm,
it's just for you to have the resources. But what I've noticed is that fear will cause some Black women to just kind of shut down and say,
mm-hmm,
"What, you want me to just go out here and not have any money?" I'm like,
mm-hmm,
"Girl,
mm-hmm.
no, that's not what I'm saying." So can you speak to that defensiveness? What was that defensiveness about when your doctor was like, "You need to go," and you're like, "I got bills to pay." Speak to that, please.
Absolutely. So that fear and that defensiveness was out of just thinking about all of my responsibilities that I had. So I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking about all these responsibilities that I have
Yes.
and knowing that I have a solid income coming in, right?
Uh-huh.
So I have a solid income coming in. I have all these responsibilities, and I talked about it a little bit before.
Yes.
We have our aging parents. My husband's father actually lives with us, just turned
Wow.
94 years old,
Ooh,
2
wow.
days ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So thinking about that and thinking about the responsibilities for, my home and my
Yeah.
marriage and my
Yeah.
kids and all of that. But, and so that was my defensiveness. So you're
Uh-huh.
telling me I need to leave, but I'm telling you I got all these
You don't know about my
responsibilities.
life, okay?
Yes, yes. And I have all this PTO time and I have this and I have that. And you telling me to go start all over again?
Ah,
So that was my defensiveness. And
yeah,
so, but then when I backed up again, as you all could probably see, I'm very spiritual. So I
yeah.
was doing a lot of praying. And then I said, you know what? He's just looking out for my best interests. So,
Exactly.
what I would say to you ladies that's listening, when you think about, you're like, oh, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm going to keep putting it off, keep putting it off, keep putting it off. Just think about it this way. Delay is not denial. So you're delaying things. It's not denial. It's just preparation. You
Ah,
have to prepare. You
yes,
have to prepare. Like you said, Dr. Kamani, you have to have an exit strategy to
true.
start preparing. You know, if you know you're in a toxic situation, you
Right.
got to prepare for it. Don't just say, "Oh, well, I've been here for so long, I'm just going to stick it out." Be
Yeah.
honest with you, I thought I was going to retire with my former employer.
Uh-huh.
I truly thought I was going to retire with my former employer.
Uh,
But God saw something different. And and again, going back to that preparation, I was preparing years ago, not realizing that I was preparing for this opportunity that I have right now.
isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yes. So even though you thought you were going to retire there, the ability to shift and say, well, maybe God doesn't want me to retire here. Maybe
Yes.
I envision something for me, but maybe God has a different plan for me, and to
Mhm.
be open to that, because that's something I hear from a lot of Black women is, particularly 50 above, I'm gonna stay here until I retire. I'm gonna stay here till my kids graduate. So this that
Mhm.
fear of leaving. But what we're talking about today is you could be at a job 20 or more years, you could
Mhm.
be 50 and above, and you could still pivot to a better opportunity. So what
Mhm.
would you say to a Black woman who's watching right now, and she may be watching it, and she's, been at the job, maybe not 20 to 25 years, but she's been at the job for a while, okay?
Mhm.
And she's 50 and above, and
Mhm.
she's saying some version of this to herself. I can't leave right now because I've invested too much into this job. I've been here for too long. I'm gonna wait till my kids retire, or my kids graduate. I'm gonna
Mhm.
retire. But she's having symptoms. She's having physical and or psychological symptoms.
Mhm.
What words of wisdom would you share with her, Ruth?
I would just say, been there. Been there, and look where I am now. And you heard me say earlier, I'm living my best life.
Right.
But that's because I stepped out on faith.
Yes.
And I just said, you know what? I am not going to let this situation
Yeah.
take over me. When you think about leaving, leaving anywhere, anything after 25 years can be completely terrifying.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
for any situation. But I had to remind myself, and I think I said this earlier, I'm
Mm,
not abandoning what everything that I did with my former
right.
employer. I'm not letting that go. It
Right.
just helped me build the foundation for where I am today.
Right. Right.
So don't have no fear.
Mm,
We are bold women, bold Black women.
yes, we
Let's
are.
step out on faith, and let's know that we do not have to allow ourselves to be in a situation that is toxic. We
True.
just don't. We just
True.
don't. And a lot of times just like you just said, Dr. Kamani, he's like, oh, well, I've been here. Just waiting for this to happen. I'm waiting for my kids to graduate from college. And you know what? I said all the same things. Waiting
Hmm.
for my kids to graduate from college. My kids graduated from college, and then I was like, okay, now what? And then
Now what's keeping me here?
yeah,
Right.
we like,
Yeah.
okay, now why am I here? And
Yeah.
and then my baby girl decided to go to graduate school, and then she graduated in 2024. And then I'm like, okay, so now why am I still here?
Uh-huh.
And so I will say, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't understand. I completely understand where you're coming from, but
Hmm.
just know that there is a rainbow on the other side too.
Yeah.
And just step out on faith, and just know that. And I can't say this enough. But
Mhm.
you have to prepare. You
You
can't
gotta
just
have a
wake
plan.
up one day, the next day,
Like,
like I said,
God, take it.
take
God,
it,
just take
take
everything
it.
over. I know you
Yes.
don't provide for me, right?
Yes, yes. No, you have to prepare. And
Yes.
again, years ago, I was extremely intentional about surrounding myself, and I said this earlier on when we started,
Mhm.
surrounding myself with people in the areas of where I knew eventually down the road. I didn't know when it was going to happen, if it was going to happen,
Mhm.
but I started surrounding myself with people in those areas so
Mhm.
that I can learn about things
Right.
and volunteer and things of that sort.
Mhm.
And then when this opportunity presented itself, it was one of those people in my network that helped me find this opportunity.
Exactly, that you probably never would have known about.
Never would have known about. I never would have known
Exactly.
about it. I never,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So be in community with other people, always
Mhm,
be planning. So the fear, we talked about the fear extensively, the fear about finances. So what we're saying, the takeaway is make sure that you are prepared, whatever that might mean financially, looking for other opportunities. An option that I've told you about, a resource, is the
mhm,
second annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, which again, registration is open. The summit starts May 16th. It is recorded. If you're not able to go all the days, again, it is recorded. As a privacy consideration, the attendees will not be seen on camera. Your name will not be listed. If there's a question or comment that you have or that you would like to make, you can change your name in the platform. Okay. So again, planning, planning, planning.
mhm,
I hope you hear that. Okay. Planning,
mhm,
planning, planning. So I'm going to read the community chat. Okay. So I see in the comment the fears, right? So the fear we don't want to minimize any of the fears. We talked about that earlier. Good evening again, sisters. Peace. Good evening. And we love that quote, girl. I love that quote, Ruth. Fear had a voice, but it did not have a vote. Okay, the fear is there, but don't let the fear control the choices
yes.
that you're making.
Mhm,
Make sure that you have plans in place. Again, the summit might be a way for you to get your plans in place so the fear doesn't take over. Okay. Comment. This is my fear too. I've been researching different business ventures such as non-emergency medical transport, residential assisted living, because I like helping people. Good.
mm.
Explore your options. Explore.
Yes.
The hope is that you're not like in an immediate, like you have to make an immediate move, but it takes time. It takes preparation. So just start doing the groundwork. Okay. Feel the fear, but still move forward. Yes. When you build good relationships, people will look out for you. So true. Wow,
Mhm.
25 plus years, lots of commitment. Sounds like a positive time for change. Hey, Marissa. Marissa's here in the chat. Told my friend that my doctor said I should leave because my health is declining, but my friend said that's unrealistic. Oh, can we speak to that?
Mm.
Oh, sis.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow. Well,
whew.
wow. Okay, read that one more time.
Okay, girl. Okay. Told my friend that my doctor said I should leave because my health is declining, but my friend said that's unrealistic.
Okay, and I'm
Real
not here to
talk,
judge.
real
I'm not
talk.
here to judge anybody's friends. Okay, not here to do that. But it's not unrealistic.
It's not
If
unrealistic.
your health is declining and there's some things going on that need some changes that need to be made, you need to make those changes.
Absolutely.
Now, this is the medical professional hat coming on right now.
Okay.
And you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to listen to yourself and you have to listen to your body.
Yes.
So my encouragement to you is to make sure that you're taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
adhering to your medical professional's advice,
Yes.
and preparing.
Yes.
Yes.
And
And
may I
uh-huh.
add, you're preparing, maybe preparing in silence without your friend knowing. Because
Yes.
anybody who's telling you to stay in any environment and a medical professional is telling you that this is harming your health, you
Mhm.
have to prioritize what the medical professional is saying. Your friend might be saying that's unrealistic because she can envision
Right.
I can envision, well, what does that mean to leave a job? Like, what's she going to do? That's her fear, sis.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
her fears that
Mhm.
she's projecting onto you.
Yes.
Recognize for what that's happening, okay?
Mhm.
But the priority is your health. She is not living your life. She may be a good
Mhm.
friend of yours, but she's not living your life. But what she is doing is projecting her fears onto you. That is not
Mhm.
healthy for you. You have to make sure that you are well. And
Mhm.
perhaps the boundary might be you don't tell her about what your plans are to get out. So you can
Mhm.
still be making your preparation and maybe to come to the summit and do all these things to get prepared, but maybe not share with her about what your plans are. And maybe after you leave, you could tell her. The other
Mhm.
thing is you have to be mindful of who's in your circle. So if you have people around you who are projecting these fears onto you, you have to be mindful of that because likely you are already fearful of what's happening. You're probably
Mhm.
already fearful of the unknown. And then when people project their fears onto you, that makes you stay longer. And then you're in an environment where your medical professionals already told you that it's causing you to be harmed. Okay. So think about, are there other people around you whom maybe you could share this information with and they're not going to project their fears onto you?
Mhm.
Okay. So that's a difficult situation. And this might even happen in families too, where
Mhm.
family members might tell you, girl, don't listen to those people. Don't listen to those people on YouTube. You need to just stay. What are you talking about? You can't lead this good job. You can't do that. Boundaries. Okay.
Boundaries.
You can, but you also need to get planned. You need to plan, okay? And maybe
Mhm.
don't tell people these fear people who are stroking those fears. Don't tell them about your business like that,
Mhm.
okay? That's a difficult situation. I don't want to discount that, okay? Ruth,
And can I just jump in real
yes,
quick and just say,
absolutely.
um, that you're so spot on with that, because I will tell you, I didn't tell a lot of people what I was doing.
Ah,
I didn't tell a lot of my family what I was doing. My immediate family knew, but
yes.
a lot of my other family, I did not, because I
Ah,
did not want to have all of these people in my ear telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing.
exactly.
And so you're so spot on.
Yes. So you
Yeah.
know, sometimes all that chatter and the noise and stuff like that, you're like, that's too many like voices that I'm
Too
hearing.
many. Yeah.
Like my
Yeah.
priority is my health and then what's
Mhm.
happening with my family. I can't
Mhm.
hear and try to accommodate everybody else because
Mhm.
they're not living my life. So I have to like take a step back. It's
Yeah.
difficult. It's
Yes,
difficult.
it
But you
is.
have to use discernment and boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
Yes.
Another comment, Ruth's story is very familiar. I left my former employer after 31 years.
Whoa. Okay.
Wow. Girl, high five.
High
Okay.
five.
Yes. It wasn't scary because I was so sick and tired of the BS. However, it was very sad to leave some of my coworkers, some of the coworkers. Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
And that's where the grieving comes in, right? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And
Mhm.
allow yourself to grieve that. It's a normal
Mhm.
response to grieve that. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So true. Get
Oh,
your
yeah.
finances in order and start interviewing. Don't talk about it with coworkers. Ooh, don't do that.
Yeah.
Loose lips sink ships. Yes,
Yes, yes.
girl. It is so hard because when you're in a toxic work environment, it is so tempting to talk to your coworkers about, like, girl, did you
Yes.
see that? Girl, da, da, da. We have to stop doing that because you never know who's in connection with who and who's going to
Mhm.
tell your business. Da, da.
Mhm.
Please don't talk to your coworkers about this stuff. Talk to people outside of the
Mhm.
job. So it might be a therapist, but also be mindful how much you talk to your family and friends too, because sometimes they can get exhausted with how much we talk
Yes.
about our jobs, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
think about who are the other people you can talk to, but not at the job. Please don't do that.
And I
This
and I will just jump in and just say real quick, again, that's spot on because I have some good friends at my former employer. When they found out, when I reached out to them and told them that I was leaving, they were disappointed that I did not share that with them before the
oh,
fact. And so what I share with them, the reason why is because I did not want and it wasn't that I didn't trust them, but
yeah,
anything, people have great intentions, but
right,
just in common conversation, anything could have just came out, right? And
right.
I did not want that to happen out, even out of respect of my team.
Yeah.
So, just imagine if someone on my team finds out, oh, did you all know that Ruth was out there interviewing? That just would not. So
Feeling
no one
uncomfortable
at
with
my
you.
company knew what was going
Yes,
on.
yes, those boundaries are so
Yeah.
important. And even sometimes I think about it too, that people have talked about when you're at a job, it's an unnatural situation because friendships and jobs and people's positions and people's livelihood, it can be very sticky. So again, just use some discretion with that, okay?
Mhm.
Miss Crocker's
Mhm.
story is so inspiring. Glad she is living her best life. Been on my job over 27 years and been preparing to leave because it's toxic and health issues. High five, sis. High five.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes. Get your stuff ready. Plan to
Mhm.
get ready and get out. Okay.
Mhm.
She jumped to, what are you supposed to do? Oh, this is so classic. This is going back to the friend who told us unrealistic. Okay. This is a part two. She
Oh.
jumped to, what are you supposed to do? Be homeless? But I'm
Oh.
gonna listen to my doctor, not my friend. LOL. Good, girl. You
Yes.
get major high fives. Okay. Yes. And no, that those are her fears. You know that, right?
Mhm.
She jumped
Mhm.
to the worst case scenario. Please.
Wow.
Okay. Amen. I'm a psychologist therapist in a college center, and I'm afraid of pivoting. But I know the universe keeps sending me signs. So I'm trying to be creative and speak with other people who branched off. Sis, I hear you. Okay. As a psychologist, I know it can be very hard to leave. And I just want to say something to you in terms of my own coming to terms with things. As a psychologist, a therapist, anybody, any role you have, you already have skills and expertise and talents
Mhm.
because you wouldn't even have the job. Okay.
Right.
So the fact that you're able to do the current job you have, you can use those skills somewhere else. But it takes planning to pivot out. Okay. So it may take a moment. Now, for me, I took my leave of absence, girl. I knew I wasn't coming back. You
Mhm.
took 3 months, I took a year. I was like, I'm not coming back to this place. And I started exit planning while I was gone. I started replacing my income. So, sis, what I want to say to you is start planning, and your plan can be 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. But just start making those initial steps where you're planning. So that gives you that forward movement. So maybe coming to the summit might help you in terms of that planning. I hear
Mhm.
you. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm no longer telling people outside of the Exodus ASAP group. Good, because we form community and we heal in community, and you need
Mhm.
to be able to trust people around you, right? So if
Mhm.
you're going through something difficult, you don't want people telling you to stay and stick it out. You don't want people telling you that. It's really hard working in toxic institutions. My job is planning layoffs, and I'm calm about it because it's time to go. It's
Mhm.
really hard being more competent than your supervisor. Ooh, then they gaslight more. Ooh, you said more than a word.
Wow.
Okay, said more than a word. So let me just tell you something that my dear friend Colette Elizabeth says, and this is probably what you're experiencing right now. She said, watch out in the workplace when you have so called supervisors or leaders or managers who are incompetent, insecure, immature. Okay. When you start seeing that, though, any of those signs, then you
Mhm.
need to start getting your plan ready to go. Okay.
Mhm.
So, what I would say to you, sis, if the job is already planning layoffs, I'm glad that you're not anxious about it. And
Mhm.
I don't want to make you feel anxious. But what I want to say to you is if they're planning layoffs, you need to get your plan together. Okay.
Mhm. Right.
Part of your plans together is creating that exit plan. If you come to the summit, you will be able to get your job exit plan. Okay. No matter
Mhm.
when they lay off, you're going to be ready. You'll be ready.
You're
Okay.
ready.
Don't be so overwhelming. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Agreed. Wow. Okay. Okay. So, Ruth, any last words you want to share with the audience before we wind down for today?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you again, Dr. Kamani. This has been so inspirational to me.
Good.
And I really appreciate you reaching out, and we're gonna be friends, sister friends for life, right?
Yes.
And I truly, truly, truly appreciate you. But all the ladies on the line, I want to go back to what we started off with. So we started off with purpose, my passion, preparation, and possibility. So I want to leave this with you. Your purpose is still calling. Your passion is still alive. Your preparation is not wasted. So you got to prepare. That's been a theme throughout this whole hour and 18 minutes we've been talking.
Absolutely.
Preparation is not wasted, and your possibilities are limitless. So trust yourself enough to answer the call.
Wow.
Yes, trust
That's
yourself.
beautiful. Yes.
Bet
Trust
on
yourself.
yourself. Yes.
Yes. And no, it's never too late. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how old
Yes.
you are, okay? I don't know how long, I don't care how long you've been at the job. You are able to pivot. You really are, okay?
Yes.
So
Yes.
again, the second annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit, May 16th. Check it out. We will have a special session for Black women 50 and above who are, you might be in that mindset of I can't go, I can't go, I can't go. We're going to talk through that, okay? So again, register for the summit. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to Ruth. I so appreciate you being here today. And for everyone who is watching this, please give this video a thumbs up. It lets YouTube know to suggest this video to other Black women. Also, in addition to register for the summit, please share this video with at least 2 other Black women. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel. It's free. Subscribe to my channel. It's free on YouTube. And I also have a Butterfly YouTube membership community for Black women, which is behind the scenes. We do members only lives. We share resources. We do monthly check-ins. So check that out as well. That's in the description section of this video. So everyone, I will see you later. And Ruth, if you could stay on. Bye,
Yes.
everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.